Good morning. After we talked about the blood components and blood vessels, we are going to talk now about the heart. The heart is a vital pump in our body that allows the blood to flow constantly through our body parts, our organs, and our tissues to allow the gas exchange. We can describe the heart as a large organ made of cardiac muscle cells that are rich in energy-producing mitochondria because it needs a lot of energy to pump. All the mammals, including humans, have hearts consists of 4 chambers, 2 upper chambers and 2 lower chambers. The 2 upper chambers of the heart are called atria, while the 2 lower chambers of the heart are called ventricles. Again, the upper chambers are called atria, the lower chambers are called ventricles. Ventricles perform more work than the atria, so the walls of the ventricles are thicker and more muscular than the walls of the atria, or we can say it that the walls of the atrium are thinner and less muscular than those of each ventricle because atria perform less work. This is the shape of the heart. These are the 4 chambers. This is the left atrium. Below, this is the this is the left ventricle. On the other side, this is the right atrium, and this is the right ventricle. Each atrium pumps blood into the corresponding ventricle. So, the left ventricle, this is the left ventricle. This is a mirror image, so the chambers will be on the opposite side. So the left ventricle pumps blood to the entire body. It is filled with oxygenated blood, so it is the part that pumps the blood to all body parts. You can notice here that it is much thicker than the left ventricle and more stronger. While the right ventricle pumps blood to the lungs, so as a result the heart is somewhat lopsided. If the left ventricle pumps blood to the entire body, so we can say that the left ventricle pumps oxygen-rich blood to all the body parts, and the right ventricle pumps the blood to the lungs. It is loaded with deoxygenated blood. It travels to the lung to make gas exchange and return back to the heart with oxygenated blood. How does blood flow through the body? First, we can say that the blood enters the heart through the 2 atrium and leaves through the 2 ventricles. If we looked at the right atria, the blood enters the heart to the right atria through 2 large veins called vena cava. These are the vena cava. Superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Superior means upper and inferior means lower. The left atrium receives oxygen reach blood from the lungs through the 4 pulmonary veins. These veins are the only veins that carry blood rich in oxygen. We said that all veins carry deoxygenated blood or blood poor in oxygen except these 4 pulmonary veins. These are the pulmonary veins. They are filled with oxygenated blood. Then, after the 2 atria have filled with blood, they contract at the same time, pushing the blood towards the ventricles, the right ventricle, and now the right ventricle is filled with oxygen poor blood, and the left ventricle is filled with oxygen rich blood. After this, the 2 ventricles contract at the same time, where the right ventricle contracts, allowing the blood poor in oxygen to be pumped out of the heart toward the lungs through the pulmonary arteries. And these pulmonary arteries are the only arteries that carry blood poor in oxygen. At the same time, the left ventricle, this is the left ventricle, contract to push the oxygen rich blood outside the heart to be distributed to all the body parts through the aorta, and from the aorta, which is the biggest artery, to the other arteries of the body. Here you can trace the blood. It enters through the superior and inferior vena cava. Trace the dots. Okay, then into the right atrium. The right atrium contracts, allowing the blood to enter to the right ventricle. Then from the right ventricle, it goes to the heart through the pulmonary arteries. While on the other side, the left atrium receives oxygen-rich blood from the pulmonary veins. Then it contracts to push this blood into the left ventricle, and then it is pumped through the aorta, through other arteries, to all body parts. Now, what prevents the blood from returning back after the atriums or ventricles are contracted? Same concept we talked about in the veins. There are valves inside the heart that prevent the blood from returning back to the pumped sites. So, there are bicuspid valve between the left atrium and the left ventricle, and there is aortic semilunar valve between the left ventricle and aorta. On the other side, there is a tricuspid valve between the right atrium and right ventricle, while there is a pulmonary semilunar valve between the pulmonary arteries and the right ventricle. Okay, a quick revision on the most important terms in this lesson. We said that heart have 4 chambers, 2 upper chambers called atria, from which the blood enters the heart, and 2 lower chambers called ventricles, which receive the blood from the atria and send it to the lung in case of the right ventricle, and to all other body parts in case of the left ventricle. Venae cava are 2 large veins that fill the right atrium of the mammalian hearts with oxygen-poor blood from the head and body. Aorta is the largest blood vessel in the whole body, and it transports oxygen-rich blood from the left ventricle of the heart to the arteries. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.